There is a sound I have heard every single night for the last 22 years. The telephone ringing. Not a real phone, not anymore. The ringing lives inside me now. It was a Tuesday, the 3rd of November. I remember because the leaves had all gone and the garden looked like something that had given up. I was watching the evening news. The phone rang. I looked at the number. I did not answer it. That was the last time my son ever tried to reach me.
My name is George. I am 89 years old, and most of what my family believes about me is not entirely true. I was born in 1935 in a small town in Yorkshire, England. My father was a coal miner. My mother ironed other people's shirts to keep us fed. I was taught early that a man does not speak about his feelings. He simply manages them, alone if necessary. By the time I was 30, I had a wife, 2 children, a small hardware shop, and a life that looked perfectly respectable from the outside. What no one knew, what I told no one, was that there was another life running alongside it. Her name was Margaret. She worked at the post office 2 towns over. We met when I was 28, delivering an order. She had dark hair and a quiet laugh, and the peculiar gift of making you feel completely seen. I did not intend for it to become what it became. These things rarely do. For 11 years, I lived 2 lives. I was a husband and a father in one town. I was someone entirely different on Tuesday afternoons in another. I told myself I was doing no harm, that both lives were real, that I was simply a complicated man in a complicated time. I have spent 60 years learning how wrong I was.
My son's name was Thomas. Tom. He was born in 1961. He came into the world screaming, which I thought was a good sign. A boy who protests his arrival, I thought, will not be pushed around. He was clever, quietly, privately clever. He read books no one had assigned him. He asked questions I didn't have answers for. He watched people the way I watched people, not with suspicion, but with a kind of careful attention. When he was 12, he told me he wanted to be a writer. I told him that was not a serious ambition. I was his father. I thought I was protecting him. I believed I was teaching him about the world as it truly operates. What I was actually doing was teaching him that I would not listen. Tom became an accountant. He was good at it. He never mentioned writing again. Not to me. When he was 31, he found something. I still do not know exactly what. A letter, perhaps. A receipt. Something that did not fit the version of me he had been given. He came to the house. He asked me directly. I denied everything. He did not shout. That would have been easier. He simply looked at me for a long moment and said, "I think you are the loneliest person I have ever met." Then he left. We spoke perhaps a dozen times after that over the next 17 years. At Christmas, at his mother's funeral. Politely, as strangers with a shared history. I have tried to remember why I did not answer the phone that evening. I believe I was angry.
Tom had cancelled a visit the month before, something to do with work. I had told myself it was an excuse and had been sitting with that grievance for weeks. When I saw his number, I thought, let him wait. Let him feel what it is to be left. He did not leave a voicemail. He never did. 3 days later, Tom's wife telephoned me. Tom had had a heart attack on the 4th of November, in the early hours of the morning. He was 67 years old. He had been alone in the house because she had taken the grandchildren to visit her sister. The doctors believed he had been unwell the day before, that he had been frightened, that he had tried to contact people. I have wondered every single day since then what he wanted to say. I have imagined 100 different conversations. In some of them, he was angry. In some of them, he asked questions I owed him answers to. In some of them, he simply wanted to hear my voice. I do not know which it was. I will never know. There is a particular kind of silence that follows a death like this. Not the silence of grief. I have had that too, and it is heavy, but it has a shape. You know where the edges are. This other silence is different. It has no edges. It goes everywhere, into everything you touch. I kept the hardware shop for another 4 years before my daughter insisted I retire. I ate dinner alone every night. I watched the same television programs I had always watched. I fed the birds in the garden. From the outside, my life looked the same. Inside, I was having a conversation with my son. I told him about Margaret, properly, the way I should have told him when he was still alive to hear it. I told him that his mother had known for the last years of her life, and that she had forgiven me in the complicated, half-silent way that long marriages sometimes permit. I told him I had been a coward, not a villain, not a monster, simply a coward who preferred the story he had built about himself to the difficulty of the truth. I told him he had been right. I was lonely. I had been lonely for most of my adult life, and I had chosen loneliness every single time it had been offered to me as an alternative to honesty. I told him I was proud of him. I had never said that while he was living. Not once. Not properly. I said it to an empty room, in a house that smelled of old wood and cold mornings. And I meant it with everything I had left.
Last spring, my granddaughter, Tom's daughter, Eleanor, came to visit me. She is 34 now. She has his eyes and his way of watching people. She asked if she could look through some old photographs. I said yes. We sat at the kitchen table for most of an afternoon. She asked questions I answered honestly, many of them for the first time. I told her about Margaret. I told her about Tom and the things I had not said. She did not excuse me. She did not condemn me either. She held my hand for a while and said, "I think he knew you loved him, Granddad. I think he just needed you to say it out loud." I believe she may be right. I hope she is right. I am 89 years old. I have perhaps a year or two remaining if I am fortunate. I spend those years trying to say the things out loud. If you are holding something back from someone you love, I want you to hear this clearly. The telephone will not always ring again. Answer it while you still can.
If this story stayed with you, I ask only one thing. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to Voices of Quiet Souls, where every week we carry the stories that were never told loudly enough.